When I share my story, it's about more than building an inspirational space for artists. I represent the creative spirit of the nation, the Choctaw Nation.
I am our past.
I am our present.
I am our future.
I am all of us. When we share, we become one.
Because our stories make us more.
Stories keep our culture alive.
See them and share them at togetherwe'remore.com.
People don't know what it is to be champions. Oklahoma invented it.
What's up, everybody? It's Through the Keyhole. We got breaking news right as we start recording. And guess what? Two of our co-hosts are too busy for us, but it's okay. They're breaking the news in spirit. I'm Brady Trantham alongside Mr. Matthew Burton. Matt, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Got off work early 2 days in a row. So there's zero complaints from me.
Yeah, OU baseball's kicking the ever-loving hell out of Oklahoma State as of now. I mean, it was one, I think, end of the first inning was 5-0 OU.
Ooh, yeah, Oklahoma State, not good this year. Not good.
Wait, are they under 500?
Yeah, they are 16 and 17, I believe, on the year. It's not good.
Not good. Not good at all, but it's good in Sooner land because, I mean, literally minutes before we always record Through the Keyhole on Tuesday evenings around 6:30 Central Time. And obviously in the spring ball off season, we're typically digging for things to talk about. And we've got quite a bit to talk about today with just two people. And that's just perfectly fine. Matt and I can effort it because I'm a former radio professional and he is a current one. So I'm sure we'll be able to handle Peyton and Allen's absence just fine. But, I mean, the football gods, the OU football gods, and let's just face it, Matt, Jim Nagy was like, we need to get Keyhole some good stuff today. Jaydn Ott, the talented running back from the University of California at Berkeley, I don't know if their funding has been cut or threatened to be cut, which is probably why Jaydn Ott was like, I'm hitting the portal. If so, was a very, very, very good running back in 2023. Last year dealt with some injuries, didn't play that much, and hit the portal a few days ago. It was reported early on that OU would be like an early favorite. And I mean, the portal's just been open for what? How many days? 1 day? Just today?
It officially opens tomorrow.
Yeah. So this is
the 16th of April. Yeah.
So this is that early, like the 2015, 2016 era of NBA free agency where deals were at 12:01.
Yeah. Everything's all good to go. Just everything's above board.
How did that contract get negotiated in a minute? That's incredible. That's incredible. But yeah, Jaydn Ott, running back from Cal, heading to Norman. And so now OU's got a portal haul going into 2025, Matt, where there's a handful of players to choose from, but the headline is going to be that I don't know about overall, but at the time that these players were in the portal, OU's got the number one quarterback out of the portal in John Mateer, and now they've got the number one running back in Jaydn Ott out of the portal. So, Matt, tell me, why won't DeMarco Murray play him in 2025?
Well, because Javonte Barnes is still on the roster.
Oh, damn it.
Javonte Marcus Major Barnes is what we're calling him. That's why. We were talking about this earlier, and obviously I think we were talking about it like it was a foregone conclusion, simply because Pete Nakos, tweet out that he's in the portal, and then like 30 minutes later is like, OU is the school to watch here. No other school. Didn't name another school. So we were kind of talking about it like it was a foregone conclusion, and obviously now that it's official, it was.
I think UCLA got a token mention.
Yeah.
Is Jaydn Ott from, I could be completely wrong.
He's from California.
Texas? Oh, he's from California. Okay.
He's from Chino, California. But no, and my thing is like, okay, like just trying to work through it. I was like, okay, was this needed, right? It was running back needed. And like going through it, I think I ended up on, it absolutely was, because one, you don't want to end up in a situation like the wide receiver room was in last year. You absolutely don't. And I think that has been in the forefront of seemingly everyone's minds is, hey, how can we help minimize that again? Like if that were to happen, feels like a freak deal. Having 6 wide receivers out injured feels like a freak deal, but let's make sure that doesn't happen again and that we are equipped to have that happen. And looking through it, it's like, okay, Javonte Barnes hasn't been like fully healthy, it feels like, since his freshman season. Gavin Sawchuk, same thing. Taylor Tatum got hurt, got banged up a little bit last year and with the fumble issues. And so you start going down the line and you're like, oh yeah, and Xavier Robinson was awesome, but he only played in like 2.5 games. Like, I mean, he really didn't play that much. So yeah, he was awesome though, but that would be a lot and I'm still very excited about Xavier Robinson. Like, don't get me wrong. I think he's got a lot of stuff to him that I like. So I'm excited about him, but if you can go out and land a player like Jaydn Ott, you do it. And again, we saw Sam Franklin hit the portal earlier for OU. That's fine. He was not going to make any sort of rotation. I don't think that he was going to make any sort of impact on the 2025 season. So yeah, that's fine. And then, yeah, I mean, listen, if anyone's out there, then like, this was my first thing is like, yeah, there's still a lot of names. And like, I'm excited about Torrey Blaylock. I mean, Tyler and I talked to Rufus Alexander before the Crimson Combine, and Rufus was like all in on Torrey Blaylock. He was like, that kid has a different gear than everyone else in that running back room. So he has a different top speed than everyone. So I'm excited about that room. But again, if you can land a guy like Jaydn Ott, man, and for those out there not familiar, last year he had a high ankle sprain in like their first game and was kind of in and out all season, really. So it was kind of an incomplete.
It was like Adrian Peterson's sophomore year where he had the ankle sprain against TCU and then kind of sparingly played against
He just couldn't really get right.
UCLA and couldn't really get healthy until like the second half of the season.
Right. But then his 2023 season, man, 1,300 yards rushing, 12 rushing touchdowns, also had just a shade under 200 yards receiving and 2 receiving touchdowns. So, I mean, this guy can absolutely play. He's going to help you. And again, I mean, if you have a chance to add a guy like this, you do it 10 times out of 10. Have him split some carries with Xavier Robinson and whoever else. But I mean, he is 1,000% a guy that you add, no doubt about it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's keep it. Well, I know Jaydn Ott's a Sooner officially because I mean the OU's football account tweeted it out with the graphic and everything, and also they got Stanford's center, whose name I cannot pronounce. Matt,
I think it's Maikula,
which is great because I think we're all like satisfied with Troy Everett at center when he's been healthy. He's been a pretty good center, but there's no doubt that position needs to have some competition because it definitely can be better. And if Troy Everett can be. If he gets beat straight up, you can put him somewhere else. You can put him somewhere else for depth. You can put him somewhere else, like at a guard position on short notice, or if you're trying to platoon guys in, like that's what Bill Beebo does. That would just be better for the offensive line as a whole.
Sorry. I also meant to make a note of this. Jaydn Ott's a grad transfer. So yeah, apparently he didn't have to wait until the transfer portal actually was open to sign. So and again, this is a move. He's grad transfer for 1 year. So if you're a big fan of Xavier Robinson, Torrey Blaylock, all these guys like I am, they get to still split some carries, this season with him and not have to be, RB1 all of a sudden as a true sophomore or a true freshman.
Yeah. Jaydn Ott also had 2022 his freshman year. He had 3 yards under 900 yards. So he had 897 yards rushing on 170 attempts. He is a half a first down a carry back. He's averaging just over 5 yards per carry. But I want to keep the conversation just for the moment back on OU's running back room. I mean, we've mentioned our group chat. We've mentioned how sometimes we get some information that we're not a media podcast, podcasts are considered media, but when you say the media, we're not that. Matt is, but when he's on the podcast, he takes that hat off and just has fuck off time with us and has fun. But I would just say this, because I don't want to take any information away from people that, they get paid for this. You might already know this. If not, I would just say, if you're sitting there thinking like, man, there's Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk, Taylor Tatum, Xavier Robinson. These 4 guys have all carried the ball at some point in their careers at OU already. Torrey Blaylock, that you mentioned, a highly thought of recruit, that if he does have that gear, I mean, he will find his way on the field in some way, shape, or form, I'm assuming. But then you bring in this kid, Jaydn Ott, and like just his career alone demands that he's going to be either starter like 1A or 1B, because we all know how much DeMarco Murray loves Javonte Barnes. So if you're sitting there thinking like, man, that's just a lot of running backs, keep your eye on that position at OU. I wouldn't be shocked if in the next week or so, basically the next time we come back on, we're talking about maybe a player hitting the portal. Like you already mentioned Sam Franklin. We're not talking about him.
Right.
I wouldn't be shocked if another player hits. And I'll just, this is my personal opinion on that matter. I would say, well, Javonte Barnes is not going to be that guy, because why the hell would he leave? Like, he's got a running back coach that will play him even over a guy who's clearly better than him in Xavier Robinson. And hell, maybe he'll play him over Jaydn Ott. I don't know. Maybe the whole selling point, Matt, is if you're a running back, come here and you won't get hurt, and you won't get too many carries and get driven into the ground. You'll be fresh for the NFL because DeMarco Murray won't play you.
Maybe that was the selling point. Maybe it was. Don't worry, Javonte Barnes is going to take all these hits for you. But no, I'm excited about that, man. I'm excited about Jaydn Ott, and I played it on the radio today. If you're not familiar, go check out the OTTTOGO, the Hot to Go spoof. That shout out to the Cal Bears fans, the Calgorithm, if you will, the woke football, if you will. They made an AI spoof of Chapel Roan's Hot to Go, and it's
good.
Ought to Go, and it is a perfect song. That's what AI should be used for. Shout out to the Calgorithm for making that happen. I can't wait for OU fans to get a hold of that song and really take ownership of it.
Yeah, the Calgorithm is when they played Miami last year. Twitter, like, I just kept getting Cal tweets, and they were so like Karl Marx in a football jersey.
They leaned in to like everyone being like, "Oh, the woke fans," and they're like, "Yeah, okay, fine, yeah, we'll lean into it." Like woke football is here to take over. It was great.
They were having it was like a bunch of like two-legged bears and like in football jerseys with like military like berets on, forcing Mario Cristobal to sign like a DEI contract. So yeah, like Calgorithm much better than OU Twitter, but that's just because we're here. This is just we take this shit seriously. This isn't fun.
Right, exactly. They have fun.
Football is
they
not
have fun.
fun.
We do not have fun.
My fiance was, she's asked like in so many other different ways, are you having fun, like during an OU game? Because clearly I'm not.
Yeah.
Or like, isn't this supposed to be fun? It's like, no, this is not a burden.
Yes.
It's a burden that we all must, carry. But yeah, good news. Obviously getting a talent like Jaydn Ott and the running back room in that rotation, I think will take shape and begin to materialize into a situation where it's going to be easier for us, like a few podcasts from now, to like really visualize like maybe a starting rotation if everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
I'll ask you this, Matt, because again, like I know you've seen highlights obviously of Jaydn Ott. I have too. I'll say this about him. Like, he certainly has an ability about him that I think his best ability is just his vision. Is he can find a crease, he can find a hole. I think people are digging up the Jim Nagy tweet from 2024 that essentially says this. Obviously, this is before he was the GM at OU. So there's probably reason why, like, yeah, you got Jim Nagy. He liked Jaydn Ott before, and this is probably one of his first phone calls. At the same time, though, when he gets into the open field, I don't necessarily think he's got another gear that we as OU people, OU fans have been missing out of the running back room, maybe since like Ramondre Stevenson had a different gear, but that was just because he was so fucking big.
Yeah.
That he just looked probably fat. Like he looked faster than he actually was when he got into the open field. Cause it's like, how is a man that size moving that quick? But really it was, I mean, Rodney Anderson had that special gear of like, oh, he's gone. You're not gonna catch him. Like the Rose Bowl, those handful of like big gashing runs against Georgia where it's like he's the best player on the field. I can't believe it. OU's not had that. I don't know if Jaydn Ott has that. Honestly, he kind of looks like Gavin Sawchuk when he gets in the open field, which is good. Like Gavin Sawchuk is fast, and when Gavin Sawchuk has been healthy, he kind of gives me that Kennedy Brooks level of confidence that if there's a hole, if he's got a competent offensive line, if there's a good system, he is going to make plays. He's going to make things happen. And honestly, that's really all OU wants. And maybe I'm completely reading him as a player wrong. Like I said, I think his ability to read the field is his best ability. I don't think that we're getting like a dude that's running like a sub 4.3 or anything like that.
No,
like a freak or something.
He really feels like a kind of a modern day running back, right? You still have those freaks that are like on either side of the spectrum, right? You have the freak like Derrick Henry, who is a defensive end that can run a 4.4, and it's like you're just not gonna touch him. Then you have the small, shifty guys, right, that can still break off a ton. He feels like, I mean, he's 6 foot 210, listed at 210. I expect like 210, 215, somewhere around there. So he's a big dude. But yeah, he doesn't have that, like you said, he's not going to go out and run a 4.3, but his vision, I think he's faster than Kennedy Brooks and probably shiftier than Kennedy Brooks, but it feels like the same sort of deal where, okay, they're just going to get 7 yards. Like they're going to get 7 yards. If the hole's really there, they're going to go get, 30, maybe 40, but on a consistent basis, like even if it's not properly blocked up, he's going to get 6 yards. Like that's just what he's going to do.
Yeah. and that's what OU needs. Javonte Barnes sometimes is able to do that. And from the Ole Miss game on until he, of course, got hurt, a week or two later, he kind of gave OU that ability. Once the offensive line started to like kind of formalize and get some confidence in itself and cohesion, the holes were there. And Javonte Barnes can run through a hole. His biggest problem is that he can't make a guy miss and he can't break a tackle. So basically the first time he gets touched, it's like the ball's down. So obviously if he's getting through a hole, that's going to be a positive play. Jaydn Ott, like I said, while the offensive line is probably still trying to figure itself out to an extent, not to the extent that it was last season at the beginning of the year, but going into this year, there's still going to be a level of figuring it out. Jaydn Ott could probably just make a play that Javonte Barnes can't. And Gavin Sawchuk, honestly, Gavin Sawchuk is the same type of player as Javonte Barnes, but he can make a guy miss. He's just running through a hole that is created for him. He's not finding one. He's not making a play in a spot where there's no play to be made. Jaydn Ott gives OU at least that ability to go into a game and think, we can just hand this kid the rock and maybe he's on. And if he's on, then it makes life easier for Ben Arbuckle, for John Mateer, everybody involved. And so it's a good thing. It's an excellent addition with Jim Nagy and him having the networking skills, the vast understanding and knowledge that he has of players across the country. Because typically he's thinking about players going into their senior years for the Senior Bowl, but he scouts these players a few years in advance. And now, like he's already mentioned, like it's been interesting to dip into high school players because it's, well before he gets to see them for the Senior Bowl. But it's a lot of the same skill sets, a lot of the same evaluations that he's been doing with the Senior Bowl, and it's already paid dividends for OU.
Yeah, absolutely. Another guy that kind of stuck out to me just with his running style, he's not as like patient as this guy. And literally, okay, you're going to hear this name and you'll be like, okay, this guy is not that guy, and I get it. But the way he moves, just the way he moves, reminds me of how Le'Veon Bell used to move. And he's not like exaggerating behind the line like Le'Veon Bell used to. Le'Veon Bell used to just like sit back there and wait for the blocks to develop and then go. But just running motion, how he runs between the tackles, he reminds me a lot of Le'Veon Bell in that way. So again, not the same player as Le'Veon Bell. I want to be very clear about that. But just how they run, he reminds me of Le'Veon.
It's not bad. Let me go through just some of his key performances, because again, I'm assuming a handful of our listeners are like me. You're not watching ACC football, especially Cal ACC football. His freshman year, like I said, he rushed for 897 yards. 274 of them came against Arizona in a 49-31 win. 19 carries, 274 for a fucking average of 14.4 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. He had another game over the century mark, 100 yards that year in their first game against UC Davis. And then every single other game he was hovering around 50 yards, 40 yards. He had 97 yards against Stanford. But in 2022, that would have been Lincoln Riley's first year at USC. USC's defense wasn't anything to write home about, but in terms of like Cal talent going up against USC talent, it's, USC has the advantage. Against USC, he had 14 carries for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against Oregon, was Oregon good in 2022?
Oh, I'm sure. I can look it up.
I mean, that was the year that they got slapped by Georgia, right, in the opener, because that was Lanning's first year.
2022. They were, let's see, 2022. I think you are correct. Yes, they 49-3. Yeah.
Man, look at this 3-week stretch. So wait, let me think about this. Was 2022 Deion Sanders' first year at Colorado?
No, 23 was.
Okay, never mind. Look at this 3-week stretch. So they played Washington, Oregon, and USC. Cal did in 2022. So they played Kalen DeBoer, Dan Lanning, and Lincoln Riley. So talk about thank God we get to play Lincoln Riley this week.
Can't wait.
Yikes. Notre Dame, they played Notre Dame in South Bend, third game of the year. They lost 17-24. Jaydn only had 33 yards on 13 carries. Washington, 14 carries for 38 yards. Oregon, 14 carries for 57 yards. That was all his freshman year. And then 23, his money-making year. Let's see, 188 against North Texas, 165 against Arizona State.
That USC stat line.
Yeah, 21 carries, 153 for a 7.3 yard per carry average, 3 touchdowns. Yikes.
He was rubbing his hands together like Birdman. He was like, all right, yeah, let's go, baby.
Yeah, Cal lost 49-50 that day. 93 yards at Oregon in 23 against Dan Lanning, so that's a good performance. 167 against Washington State and our friend Ben Arbuckle. 166 against Stanford, 80 against UCLA, and they played in the Holiday Bowl against Texas Tech, I guess. Cal did that year, and he only had 17 carries for 55 yards. We could dive into these numbers, and I've already listed off that shit. And whenever people list stuff off on podcasts, I understand some of our listeners going like, "Ugh, get to the point, get to the conversation." I can just say from a bird's eye view, having not watched all these games start to finish and having a deep understanding of Cal football and where they stand in the Pac-12 a few years ago and the ACC last year, you can kind of look at these and say, he doesn't seem to have very good games against the better run defenses that he goes up against. And I don't even know if, for instance, I know USC doesn't have a good rush defense, or I assume that they don't under Alex Grinch, but I'm just thinking about USC's talent is probably better than Cal's. And so in my caveman brain, I'm just thinking like, okay, that's one of the better rush defenses, quote unquote, he's going up against with this schedule. And he doesn't seem to have very good numbers compared to like playing a shitty Arizona team or a shitty UC Davis community college, California team, whatever it might be. He also does have good games. Like I said, the Notre Dame game was a good performance. Stanford is nothing to write home about, but Cal Stanford, that's a rivalry game. And I put a lot of stock in performances in big games like that, because you also have to flip the coin onto the other end of saying like, well, he's playing behind Cal offensive line talent with a Cal offensive system where everybody knows that he is the guy. Like, just stop him and they can't do anything.
Right.
So he at least, all that to say, you can find some holes just by looking at the numbers, but then you can kind of also flip them around and say, well, he should be much better playing behind Oklahoma's offensive line. But then again, we're going to be going up against SEC competition. But that's the same question, debate, conversation that we have about John Mateer. These are just questions that are going to be answered once they start playing football. But any deep thoughts about the Stanford transfer, Matt? Have you talked about that on the radio other than just like,
no, we were off air by the time this dropped, but that's it. Good for depth. Didn't sound like there was a center really behind Troy Everett that you felt good about. So, get this guy in and have him compete, push Troy Everett a little bit. So, try to earn a spot and beat Troy Everett out. Who knows? But yeah, that's really all that comes to mind there.
Are you ready for the new era of sports in Oklahoma? Want to be ready for some real Southern football? Kaizen Performance in Norman, Oklahoma is your spot for physical and mental growth. By empowering a lifestyle of constant, continuous improvement, Kaizen Performance's gym experience lends itself from the experienced training fanatics to those who want to make a positive change in their lives and everyone in between. Come see their new location at 158 Armstrong Court in Norman, Oklahoma. With experienced trainers who understand that every client has individual desires and needs, in-person and online customized training programs and nutrition plans, Kaizen Performance has everything to offer for you to meet your goals. Again, their new location is 158 Armstrong Court, Norman, Oklahoma, 73071. Seriously, Brady works out there, and so does Peyton when he comes to home games. Come work out with us and get ready for the week-to-week grind of real Southern football. Kaizen Performance, Norman's own local gym where your goals are a workout away.
Thank you, Jim Nagy. I wonder if these happen if Nagy is not the general manager, or if OU is just still like Curtis Lofton is the GM. Right. Because obviously if they had pivoted and hired somebody else, because what was it? Florida also wanted Nagy. So if Nagy just accepted the Florida job and we pivoted to somebody else, like maybe we just get somebody else, but we don't get the number one running back in the portal.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. According to Pete Nakos, this is just from a few minutes ago, quote tweeting the announcement of Jaydn Ott picking OU. OU's focus in the portal is now going to shift to tight end. And Matt, I can't imagine how that fucking matters. I'm critical of DeMarco Murray for obvious reasons, but at least there are times where the running backs make plays and produce. I don't know what a good, you could give us Keith Jackson. And if Joe John Finley is coaching him, I'm sorry, Keith, I don't know. I don't think it's in the cards.
Yeah, I don't think so either. No, honestly, no, go ahead.
The love child of Jermaine Gresham and Keith Jackson could not overcome Joe John Finley's coaching. I'm sorry.
He would not be able to. Yeah, tight end is interesting. The kid from Ball State that transferred to Wisconsin has entered the transfer portal again. So his time in Wisconsin, he was just spent the spring up in Wisconsin. I hear it's lovely up in Madison this time of year.
That's when you want to spend time in Wisconsin, is the spring, because then it gets fucking cold.
Right, exactly. So, so he's back in the transfer portal. I think that OU is in on him before he transferred there. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, as far as tight end goes, it's in maybe number one as far as I'll believe it when I see it. Like, I mean, that is the number one position group that I just cannot buy into, and I will believe when I see it, because I am holding out zero hope for the tight end room.
Yeah, I just don't know how they would factor in, because we've seen like Braden Willis was a very good college tight end, and he was utilized about as best as he could be. Like early on in his career, he didn't get as many opportunities, and that's a Lincoln Riley thing. But once it turned into the Jeff Levy show, I mean, Braden Willis was a fully realized talent. He's not an All-American level talent. He's not a NFL first, second round pick, obviously type talent, but he was a very good college tight end. And it helped OU's offense that year in 2022 shield the load of losing Caleb Williams to an extent. But then we saw a version of the OU offense with a tight end who just is a net nothing, because Austin Stogner, he played every snap, he played his ass off. He's just not very good. And hell, like I will say, like the handful of times you threw him the ball, he did catch it. So at least he can vacuum hands the ball for a positive gain. But he was just like, tight end is supposed to be a game breaking position. It's supposed to be a position that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. And that's not to say that every year you should have a tight end akin to what was his name from Georgia a few years ago, Matt? Plays for the Raiders.
Oh, Brock Bowers. Yeah.
Brock Bowers. Yeah. It's like, like you're not going to have a freak every year, but why can't a place like OU have just a matchup nightmare on the field to like make a linebacker think twice? Because it just makes it that much easier when you have an Austin Stogner out there. Like no one's thinking about it. No one cares. And then, last year Bauer Sharp is supposed to be kind of this dynamic pass catching tight end, and he is. If he's only in the position of, you don't have to be a lead blocker, like we're not running to your side, you're not like influencing the running game with your physicality, quote unquote. You are just essentially a tall slot receiver, and you're going to catch the ball. He can do that. But OU asked him to block a lot and to be the lead blocker in many situations that ended in absolute tragedy. I mean, just ask Michael Hawkins that. Like that was the failure of the South Carolina game. It was like, let's put Bauer Sharp on their NFL edge rushing players and see what happens. Well, yikes, that's what happens. And then when Joe John Finley became the offensive coordinator, it was like, I love Bauer Sharp so much because he tight end that I draw up trick plays for him, and none of them worked ever. Whether he, like Bauer Sharp himself, was the one performing the act of the trick play or he was the recipient of the trick play, it never worked. And the one time it did in Missouri, what happened next, Matt? Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, the little delay game.
Yep. And then they ended up, did they kick a field goal when they got down to the 2?
I think so. God. Yeah.
Yeah, just this absolute clown show. So again, they need to upgrade at tight end, and bringing in a warm body would frankly make me feel better. At the same time, though, there's not like I know you mentioned the Ball State, Wisconsin kid. Is there like a potential? Because we have heard about Jaydn Ott for like the last month. Like we've heard that might be a possibility if he hits the portal, that OU would be very interested and be one of the schools to potentially nab him. There's not a tight end that we've heard of, right?
No, the only one would be this Ball State Wisconsin kid who had 94 catches for 839 yards and 8 touchdowns last year at Ball State. 6'7", 240. But yeah, other than that, genuinely don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not a recruiting guy or transfer portal guy, so I'm sorry. I'm not an insider.
Well, what was his name? Jake Roberts, the kid from last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't he have kind of a nice little career at Baylor?
I think he was fine. There started out at North Texas. But yeah, let's see. Let's double
because
check.
when you say those numbers from the Ball State kid, you're thinking like, oh yeah, that's good, right. Brady. Like, what are you talking about? Add that guy. Well,
he was there at Baylor for 1 year, 23 catches, 231 yards and a touchdown. So not anything crazy.
Okay. Yeah, hell, maybe he might be. Maybe maybe that would be the missing key then. Again, I don't know. Joe John Finley's coaching them. I can't imagine how good they are because again, like the Auburn game, God, oh my God, that was so frustrating. Like the offense, I would argue, other than Xavier Robinson, the best the offense looked last year against the SEC, let me try to remember, was the Auburn game. And if it wasn't for the tight ends, we'd all like, oh yeah, that was definitely the best performance by the offense that year. Because OU had about 3 or 4 chunk plays wiped off because a tight end did something that had no bearing on the play.
Yeah.
Like the biggest one was like the pick that Jake Roberts set for Bauer Sharp on that big slant pattern. He didn't even have to touch him. And Bauer Sharp still catches the ball because the dude, his main guy fell down and he would have gone for 60 yards like he did anyway. So it was just an unnecessary, like, what the fuck are you doing? There was like one Gavin Sawchuk run that would have, I think, probably been his longest run of the year of like 15 yards that got wiped away from a hold by a tight end. So it's just
about this. Like, I genuinely think that there is, I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but there is a great chance that at the end of next year, we just look back on the 2024 season with Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins, and just be like, yeah, they just didn't have a quarterback. Obviously, the offensive coordinator was terrible hire to start. But I think there's like, oh, okay, yeah, that fixes a whole hell of a lot if you just have a competent QB.
Yeah, I mean, you ask Jackson Arnold, he'll probably blame the coaching because that's essentially what he did.
That's fine. He might not start. He might not start for Auburn. So
I know he didn't. He wasn't like the Auburn message boards. They look eerily similar to the ones that we read last year. And to my credit, I will mention, or I guess not to my credit, I will be honest. I did not want to believe them, and I chose not to. I chose to say, Al Ashback, you old hack, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You haven't broken news in 30 years. Go back to Thailand. Go on vacation. And damn it, he was right. Michael Hawkins was a better quarterback than Jackson Arnold. Now, Lee Benson, I know you're listening. That does not mean that I think in a 7-on-7 in basketball shorts drill, who would be the better looking quarterback? Well, Jackson Arnold would be because he can throw the ball really awesome, just pop, pop, pop all over the place, just like Spencer Rattler. But you put them on a football field and you ask them to make plays against other big humans. Did Michael Hawkins make mistakes? Of course he did. Some of those mistakes look awful. God damn, they did. Jackson Arnold's mistakes were just like, my man, you were the most coveted quarterback in the country in a lot of respects, and you fuck up like this?
Dude, I mean,
we weren't expecting to see Michael Hawkins for 3 years, dude. And we saw him in 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, Jackson Arnold could say whatever he wants. He's about to get his job taken by a true freshman again for the second straight year. So, who knows?
For the listeners who've not seen the fancy graphic, can you please bring them up to speed?
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
I essentially I
thought it was in our group chat. I thought it was in our group chat. Was it not? I guess it wasn't. But essentially like what made him transfer from Oklahoma. And it was basically him saying he got benched after after a bad game or something against Tennessee. I'm like, bad is putting it lightly. That is not doing it any justice.
He was asked about the adversity he faced at OU, and his answer was, well, play the first 3 games. We're 3-0. Then go to Tennessee and have a bad first half and get benched. My man, I know sometimes you gotta psych yourself up. Even sometimes, we all do this. Sometimes we got to lie to ourselves. You got to look in the mirror and say, you're going to have a good day when you know it's going to be a bad day. Because otherwise you might not have a day at all. So you got to psych yourself up. I understand that. But my man, you didn't just like that implies that I played really well for the first 3 weeks. And then I just had a bad first half against a team that went to the playoff. And then they benched me.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold. Dude,
you almost lost to Houston in Norman.
Probably should have lost to Tulane, quiet as it's kept. As well.
He played our way into losing to Tulane with his dumb decision making.
Exactly. You scored 16 points against Houston, who is not good. They were not a good football team at all. He threw for 174 and 2 touchdowns. And I'm sure you do, because you vividly remember all these things. But the interception that he threw against Houston, it was like corner. It was like a corner, and he like two patted the ball and was like, here you go, into like 3 Houston Cougars, and one guy came up with that. I was like, what the hell? And then obviously the Tulane pick 6 there down at the end, man. I just, obviously he redeemed himself later. I mean, he had that great run for a touchdown, to be fair to him. But yeah, I mean, we did a lot of psyching ourselves out for a guy whose high passing total is 225 in a game. It was 225 last year, Jackson Arnold against South Carolina. And then he had 224 against Maine. And those were the only times he had over 200 yards passing.
He had 224 against Maine? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because he threw a 90-yard touchdown
he had a
to
90,
J.J. Hester.
Oh, my God.
That's the only reason it was up over 200. So, again, hey, man, hope he goes and figures it out at Auburn.
I don't.
He just didn't have. You could see him thinking and processing and being like, "Oh shit, this is moving pretty fast," in real time. Every time he caught the ball for the snap. So I don't know. Hopefully, for his sake, those demons go away. But that's tough to get over.
Yeah, I mean, the Monday post I wrote a few weeks ago. I mean, Jackson's biggest problem is I think he played way too much North Texas high school football where they like really protect the quarterback. It's just like, this is air raid central, and you will forget that football is a contact sport. If you're good enough to play quarterback at like those North Texas schools in high school, you will forget that it's a physical contact sport. Then he gets to OU where it's like, this is a blood sport. Because every time he would get hit, oh my God, it was like, wait, this is allowed? The fumble on the goal line, I think I mentioned on the Monday post, on which you can find on patreon.com/throughthekeyhole, that you might as well have like blown the play dead. And I wasn't blaming the officiating that they didn't and the play went on too long. I wasn't suggesting that. But it was such a routine, like, he runs into a brick wall, lowers his shoulder, protects the football, does everything you're supposed to do, and he just gets wrapped up and kind of stood up for like a second or two, and then the ball just falls out of his hands. They're picking and prodding at it, yeah, but no one punches it from behind. Like the thing I always bring up is Michael Hawkins's fumbles all made sense to me. Jackson Arnold's made no sense to me, and the only way I can just like make them make sense is that he's afraid.
Yeah.
And a lot of his decision making came from fear. Now, in his defense, some of that's Britt Venables' fault for empowering a dork in Seth Luttrell and Joe John Finley to come up with these stupid offensive schemes that they threw out there. So he wasn't put in the best situation. Yeah. But like I've always said, if you're a 5-star quarterback and everybody wants you, you should be able to make a shitty offense look kind of average. And he couldn't do that. I mean, because the worst play in that Tennessee game, Matt, like the bad first half that he, is just like, well, it was just a bad first half. That first interception, I don't think I've ever seen a worse interception.
That was basically, it felt like the same play as the Houston one. Honestly, it's just like a couple pats of the ball and lob it up. Jackpot, 500.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand how he couldn't see the cornerback drifting into that area. I still do not know. And it's just because he was so used to playing in a system where everything is drawn up for him. He just had to deliver the ball there. And you're doing it against high school kids who aren't as good as you for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, yeah, on a human level, I don't want Jackson Arnold to fail. He's got a great opportunity. He's getting his college completely and utterly paid for while making more money on top of all that. He could potentially set himself up, not for life, but he can have a really good head start on it, and he can never succeed in football, and all that can still apply. So on a human level, yeah, like I wish him well, but in terms of his football prowess, no, fuck him.
Yeah.
If he starts, I hope we beat the ever loving hell out of him, and he fumbles that football over my field just like he did last year for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do it for us again, Jackson. Oh well, man. Like it's interesting, Matt, like we've been on now for about 30, 35 minutes, and we've not mentioned the Crimson Combine once.
The what? No, I'm just kidding.
That thing you did pregame for on Saturday.
Yeah, that was fun. I will say, as far as the quote unquote pregame for it, I had fun. I got to talk to Rufus Alexander. So that was awesome. But yeah, as far as all the other stuff, listen, do you remember that scene on National Lampoon's Vacation where they go to the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
And she's like, Clark, look. And he goes, okay, let's go. Like, that was what I felt like on the Crimson Combine. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it here. That's what it is. Okay, cool. Let's go. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm sure if you had kids and you brought your kids to that, I'm sure they had an absolute blast. So like, I don't like, again, most of this stuff, like the Meet the Sooners days, like getting autographs, all that stuff for kids. Like, I mean, if you want to go bring your kids there, I'm trying to remember myself at like 6, 7 years old. I would have absolutely eaten that up. Would have absolutely loved it. I think you can see from OU's attendance, and I mean, not just specific to OU. Go look at Alabama's A-Day as well. I think OU fans just let you know exactly what they think of that.
Yeah, I know a handful of people that bought tickets, when the spring game was still going to be a thing, and they bought those tickets ahead of time, and then they didn't go to this.
Yep.
I've always wondered, has there ever been an adult try to go to like one of these Meet the Sooners things and then be turned away because they're obviously not children, and then just say, we're all children. We're all children of God.
Right. Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah. In the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah, so give me that fucking autograph from John Mateer. I'm sorry. I know the children are here. God, I'm sorry. Yeah, like, hey, I can say this now. This is my last Through the Keyhole podcast. Pause. Where I will be employed by the University of Oklahoma because I got a new job starting on the Monday after Easter.
Yay.
So I not that I've ever felt compelled to like protect the brand, because of course I haven't. But there's always been a level of like, well, I can't really go hard in the paint in some respects. So now that I'm like knocking on death's door for my time at OU professionally, at least for now, who knows, maybe they'll hire me in the athletic department. I'll say this. It was very clear that Joe Castiglione, and I'm going to say him because he's the athletic director, so I would assume that every decision that gets made by his underlings goes to his desk and he signs yes or no. It was very clear that they had absolutely no idea that the fans would be so upset that the spring game would be canceled. And I would, just like I argued then, they could have canceled it on February 5th or the 20th when Nebraska, because Nebraska canceled theirs on the 5th, Texas canceled theirs on the 20th, or USC did. I think it was Texas or USC. But in between that, dozens of schools, like the smaller ones, Arizona, UCLA, they were canceling their spring games. They could have canceled it in that window. And I don't think anybody would really be that upset. It would also have given them more time to really think about, okay, well, on short notice, what are we going to do for the fans? Because, we're just taking something away from them. We can't just take it away outright. It would have given them more time. They waited an extra week into March when spring ball had already began. And then they were like, oh yeah, now there's going to be no spring game. we're going to have this instead. And it was just Meet the Sooners Day on steroids.
Yeah.
And so,
and
again,
my thing
like,
is, I said this yesterday on the show. I honestly want to give a shout. I don't even know who you are, but if you're listening and this applies to you, absolutely. Whoever volunteered and whoever got this thrown at them like a month and a half, like less than a month and a half out, and we're like, hey, throw some shit together. Whoever got tasked with that, more power to you, because I feel like you did about as well as you could with the amount of time that you were given to throw something together. So whoever behind the scenes was in charge of putting that on, because it was not, Josie, it was not Brent. They were like, no, we're canceling the spring game. You guys figure it out. That's kind of what it felt like in a way.
But you feel Brent wanted to cancel it more than Joe?
Either way, whoever it was, whether it was one of them two, it felt like it was, we're canceling it. You guys figure it out. So whoever's desk that got thrown on to throw something together, more power to you, because at the 11th hour, you got thrown this on your desk and you're like, hey, pull something off. And you pulled something off. You pulled something out of nothing in like less than a month and a half out. So, again, I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to give them a mulligan on this one, just for the event itself, because they did have so little time to actually put it on. And if it continues where they're not having a spring game, they at least now have a year's worth of, hey, what can we do? How can we make this a little bit more fun? How can we get more people here? Yada, yada, yada. The time that they just didn't have this season. I give them a mulligan on that aspect. But again, with the attendance on everything, and again, not specific to OU, go look at Alabama. I think fans of the university have already have shown you. They've shown you by not showing up what they think of this idea.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, and I can see. I mean, I've worked in a creative space, creative office for the last 10 years. So I understand when you get presented with something, I can see where this would come up in someone's brain, like that eventually becomes the Crimson Combine. My whole problem is they waited too fucking long to decide that they didn't want to do a spring game. And if Brent Venables went up to Joe and said, I don't want to do a spring game for XYZ reasons, then Joe Castiglione should have said, Brent, you went 6-7 last year. You will go back to your office. We'll cancel the spring game next year because we're too far into the calendar to make that decision with limited amount of time now to appease our fans, most of which are adults. But yeah, you're right. It's partly like they didn't do themselves any favors in terms of like when they decided to cancel it. And then, a lot of the messaging we were getting, on top of like, well, it's the new era of college sports and blah, 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 on the spring portal and getting poached. Like, OU players ain't going to get poached because of a damn spring game. They ain't going to get, like, Nebraska players get poached because Nebraska sucks. We poached Jaydn Ott because Cal sucks.
Yeah.
That is, poaching is for the suck programs. Even when we're 6-7, we do not suck. We sucked that year, but we do not suck overall. There is a fine line. But a part of the messaging was also, well, you don't want to get players hurt. We had an injury-plagued year last year, and you just don't want them to get hurt in a meaningless scrimmage. You just don't want that to happen. And I was like trying in my brain to remember a time where a player got hurt in a spring game, and I can only think of two. Dimitri Flowers had like a hyperextension, I think, going into 2016 or 2017. I can't remember what spring game it was, but he had like a hyperextended knee, like towards the end of the second half, but he was obviously fine once the season started. And, Toby Keith. That's it.
Oh, also, I did ask, I'll throw Rufus Alexander in there. He tore his ACL in the spring game. He told us that way back when. He told us
2002?
He didn't say when it was, because I just first off asked him. I was like, "Hey, as a player, like, would this be something you'd be interested in, or do you kind of miss the old spring game?" He was like, well, I tore my ACL in the spring game, so he was like, probably would have rather done this. And I just can't remember. It had to been when he was early, because Tyler and I were talking about
2002.
Yeah, Tyler and I were talking about it afterward. To be like, had to have been early because like if Rufus Alexander, when he became Rufus Alexander, did that, we would have remembered that.
Yeah, it had to have been 2002, which would have been his true freshman year, and I think he redshirted, so it had to have been that because I have the Rose Bowl like against Washington State like etched in my brain, and Rufus played at the very end of that game.
Yeah.
So
they had to have
he must have torn it.
True freshman, yeah.
Yeah. And all due respect to Rufus Alexander, he used to be a former host of where this podcast came from, Inside OU with John Hoover and Rufus Alexander. And I was just on there. But all due respect to Rufus Alexander, and of course the player he became, when I'm talking about players getting hurt in a spring game, I mean guys that project to factor into the season coming up.
Yeah.
And so obviously Toby Keith, that's just kind of a joke because like not him getting hurt, but just to further the point of guys, I don't really recall many players getting hurt in this game, but sure. So we get that messaging that, player safety, we can't let them get hurt. And then we get creep closer and closer and closer to the Crimson Combine. And in that time, Joe Castiglione's going on the radio. He's going on the Gabe Ikard Experience saying like, yeah, I'm with the fans on this one, even though I made that decision. I hate where this era of college football is going. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I hate where it's going. I hear your cries, your bitches and moans. But yeah, the player safety, you got to think about that too. And then we get to the day before and they're like, actually, we're going to do one-on-one drills because they knew no one was coming and they knew no one was excited about it. And then the day actually got here and like, actually, we're going to do 7-on-7. I'm just like, yeah, throw player safety out the fucking window. Because they were like, no one's here, no one cares.
Yep. The injury excuse was I didn't buy that for a second.
Yeah. Brady, they weren't tackling each other. Like it's 7-on-7. My man Giovanni Gibson got hurt because he got rolled up on, quote unquote, finger quotes, and it was a quote fluky situation, unquote. I mean, you're just tempting the hands of fate with like impromptu 7-on-7s. It's like, anyway. This is just me complaining about like, I complain about politics because I'm a human being. I'm not going to complain about politics on this podcast because that's not what you're here for. This is essentially me complaining about OU politics, like OU football program politics. So just take that for that, okay?
I mean, I asked you this when we had you on yesterday, man. It's just like, can we cut it down so bare bones that it's just OU fans and college football fans alike, they just want to act like they're watching an OU football game in April. Just bare bones, simple. I think that's more so what it is. They want the camaraderie. They want to see the people there. They want to, do all that stuff. Like act like they're watching an OU football game in April and give a little taste for the season upcoming. They don't want to watch practice.
Yeah. And a part of like the beauty of football is, I mean, every sport has an element of this. Baseball has it a lot. Basketball, just by the sheer fact that there's less players on a basketball team than a baseball or a football team, you don't see it as much. And typically the best players on a basketball team are the best players from day one of the offseason to the end of the regular season, into the postseason. Like that doesn't change much. But football, like a part of the beauty of the sport, in my opinion, is just the progression that players and teams take. So I put a lot of value in watching a meaningless spring game because I see that player X is not with the ones. Oh, I expected him to be maybe, rotating in with the ones, but no, I guess he's just not there yet as a true freshman. And then you fast forward to November and he's on like key third downs. It's like, oh, look at the progression he's made from where we were in April. But you don't get that with whatever crap they rolled out there last week. And I should have, I guess, said this on the beginning of this conversation. I didn't go. So maybe it was a lot of fun and maybe I'm completely wrong. But I just didn't go. I had other things to do, like have fun in Norman doing other things.
I'm just saying, like,
feel very, very odd
No, I'm just saying
going.
if you're a fan that's into watching practice, wants to really do that and be in the weeds, I'm sure you had a blast. If you're a kid, the kids were out there, running 40s, throwing footballs into the big like Dr. Pepper can things. They were not chest passing though. They were actually throwing. So the kids of Oklahoma are going to be all right. But no,
There you go.
Like if you're a kid or if you're someone that's really into like watching practice that excites you, I could see you having a really good time. I just obviously, as we saw, that is not the majority of Oklahoma fans.
Like, I guess they wouldn't be able to use their excuse of we don't want players to get poached.
Right.
But if they would have just marketed this as like you get to come watch an hour long 7-on-7 drill, I think there would have been a lot more people excited. I would have been excited.
Yeah.
And you get to see linemen like do like padded drills or whatever. And, I don't want to see like an Oklahoma drill. I don't want to see one on like high intensity one-on-ones because that I think the likelihood that someone gets hurt is much more increased in that situation, weirdly enough, more than a spring game because the players know it's a spring game. Like it's like an NBA All-Star game. Like no one's going to be blocking a dunk because no one wants to get embarrassed. And also they don't want to get hurt. Yeah. It's like, let's just entertain the people. That's what we're here for. But yeah, what a waste of a wonderful weather day when we had shitty weather the weekend before and ruined some plans, but oh well. Jumping over to college football, Matt, unless there's like another OU thing, I like Nagy talked to the media during the combine for the second time. Ben Arbuckle talked to the media for the first time. John Mateer's got the look, I think OU fans always have a soft spot for a quarterback with a headband and long hair. So he's got the look. That sidearm throwing motion, whew, it's either going to be beautiful or it's going to be like, oh God, put some air under that damn thing, man. Next time, please. But yeah, I mean, Giovanni Gibson's maybe coming back by the start of the season. So that prognosis is much better than the picture that I guess the reporting that we had read last week painted. So, I mean, that's good, but OU is, I mean, with us being this aggressive in the spring portal before it even opens, we know we're going to go after our tight end. I'm assuming we're going to go after a cornerback as well. I'm assuming they're going to go after a receiver or two as well.
Yeah, I think you have to with receiver for sure. Yeah, tight end. Tall ones, maybe.
I would say exclusively just go after anyone over 6'1", because we've got plenty of short, fast guys on roster as it now.
I've heard Keon Brown thrown out there, the former OU commit had to go play junior college. Heard him thrown out there. Bob Brisbillo actually told us about that last Thursday. And that was a name I hadn't thought about in many moons. So it'd be funny. He's a big wide receiver. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see that. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, kind of like a full circle moment for him, I'm sure. But yeah, as far as me trying to really throw out any specific players, that's not me. That is not me in that. But yeah, shout out to them. Hopefully you have to have at least, I would say at least one. It's probably going to be two wide receivers because, again, like we mentioned earlier, last year is at the absolute front of your mind when thinking about that. Like, how can we avoid that shit show happening again?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be better just from the standpoint of they've got, I mean, it's weird to say because Ben Arbuckle is younger than I am, but they've got adults running the offense now.
Yeah.
And they've got a quarterback that can execute it. And from an intangible standpoint, is Jackson Arnold a more talented quarterback than John Mateer? In some respects, probably, just by virtue of his recruiting ranking, his speed. I think Jackson Arnold in a straight line is probably slightly faster than John Mateer, but like I've mentioned a handful of times just by watching his film, because I grind tape, that's what I do, Matt. I just
you and Jim Nagy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just grinding tape. I hate, well, you can like it. I mean, people on Twitter that present themselves as scouts, like whatever. But when John Mateer has the ball in his hands, he seems like a more like, I understand how to play football. Like, he just seems like a better runner. Is he as fast? No. Is he a better runner? In my opinion, yes. Is he a better quarterback? In my opinion, yes. So the offense is just going to be better. It's just really going to come down to, where does that improvement land? Like, what's the ceiling of that improvement relative to OU's like schedule, like difficulty? One of those things, one of those games, at least for now, appears to be a little bit more manageable, because Tennessee lost their starting quarterback in probably the biggest college football news since OU Texas, the leak of them joining the SEC, I would say. I mean, it's much bigger than USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, because it was like, one, that was like, you're just copying us, like, ew, get your own thing. A, and B, like, who cares about USC and UCLA? Like, who cares about it? Like, Tennessee, Josh Heupel, all just worship Josh Heupel. Thank you, Josh Heupel, for having the courage to tell a player to GFY. We will be fine without you. Tennessee football will exist long after you are done playing football. And that's what we're going to think. If we have to bite it this year to an extent, then so be it. Because similar to Jackson Arnold, Nico Iamaleava was a highly thought of and recruited quarterback when he came out of high school. And last year he showed an ability to run that offense at a high level. And he played extremely well at times. He also did not play well at all. And it kind of left this kind of idea in my head, Matt, that he's like 6'6", right? He's like super tall.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. If he was 6 feet tall, would he have been the most sought after quarterback in high school the year he came out? I don't think so.
Probably not. No.
Yeah. So it's like the Jamarcus Russell thing, where he's just so big and so tall and he's got like a rocket arm. It's like, but if that's it, like, there is so much more that goes into this position than just big, strong, throw far, but scouts sometimes and evaluators fall prey to the intent, like to those like metrics, because they then just assume, well, they're going to work hard and they're going to improve. So look, it's a super tall quarterback. Isn't that awesome? So I think Josh Heupel also understood that, like, you are not God. Like, if this was a, I don't know, who was the best quarterback in college? Like, if he was Caleb Williams, Tennessee might have paid, because they probably would have wanted to. They would have been like, yes, you deserve it. Like, yes, you're the best player in the sport. We want to keep you. Nico, you're very good. You were not that good. I'd argue that you weren't even worth the money that they paid you. That, $2 million reported $1 million that he was getting a year.
Yeah.
Tennessee was awesome last year because they had an awesome running back, awesome offensive line, an awesome receiving core, and an awesome defense, especially in their front seven. They lost a lot of their defense. They lost that running back, and I think they lost all those receivers except for one guy. I think that one guy transferred and the other two went to the draft or graduated. So it's just going to be the Nico show. And I think Josh Heupel kind of understood, you're not that good, so you can keep stepping. And it seems like every single college football coach in America is going we're not going to touch him.
That's exactly what it feels like. Hell, even I saw Tulane was pulling out of the race for Nico. UNC did. It's just feels like he's going to go play at UCLA, to be honest with you. But truthfully, I don't know. And again, you mentioned it, and I want to emphatically double down on good for you, Josh Heupel. Good for you for doing that, because I don't know, man. It was only a matter of time before something like this happened in college football. Seriously, a matter of time. And who's to say that it hasn't happened already, but maybe just not on this level yet, or like this level of a program that just went to the college football playoff. all that stuff. It maybe hasn't happened on that grand of a level yet, but good for Josh Heupel, man. I'd be like, no, you're not going to try to fuck us over, right before our spring game and the spring portal opens. No, I'm good. We don't need that on the end. Also, too, I mean, could have come from Josh Heupel, which it sounds like mostly. I'm sure some of the players, even for Tennessee, were like, nah, screw that. We're good. Like, we do not need him that badly. Nico Iamaleava last year threw 19 touchdown passes against teams. Let's just do a little quick math here. He had 4 against Vanderbilt, who had a winning record. 4 of the 19 were against Vanderbilt. He had 4 against UTEP. He had 3 against UT Chattanooga. He had 2 against NC State, 1 against Kent State. He had 2 also against Mississippi State that went 2-10 and did not win a conference game. Didn't have one against Georgia, didn't have one against Florida, had 1 against Alabama, didn't have 1 against Arkansas, had 1 against OU.
He had 1 against us? I thought he had 2.
He had 1 passing touchdown. Yeah.
Wow. He had 2 big plays. I guess one of them went for a touchdown.
Yeah, one of them did. But, I mean, that spread is not good. It felt like outside of Vanderbilt, because they did have a pulse last year. They were pretty salty, especially for Vandy standards. Any team with a pulse, nothing against. And I was like, okay, yeah, he's kind of fast too. I mean, like, he's kind of fast for being, 6'6", long strides, whatever. He had 3 rushing touchdowns all year. And 2 of those came against Ohio State in the blowout in the college football playoff.
He did not blow me away in the Tennessee game whatsoever. Like, he was clearly talented. But
so he can feel that way all he wants to about, because like the Darian Mensah and Bryce Underwood contracts. Darian Mensah now at Duke, was at Tulane last year, reportedly got $3 million to go to Duke. Bryce Underwood, the true freshman at Michigan, which OU will probably see in week 2, reportedly $3 million a year to go to Michigan. So Nico was on like 2.2 to 2.5 mil and decided, or him or his dad, probably his dad, decided, hey, these guys are doing that, but my son just went to the college football playoff. Hey, man, sometimes you fuck around and find out. And there's a lot of finding out going on for Nico and his dad right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no rule that says you can't go up to your boss and ask for a raise.
Yeah.
And if you do it politely and professionally, it can result either in you getting some very good news, or it could result in you getting some bad news, but no hard feelings, and you might get a better understanding of where you are and what you need, the goals you need to accomplish. Or you can do what Nico did and just completely and utterly fuck up your present and potentially your future, because I would be hard pressed to assume that he makes any amount near what he was making already at Tennessee, let alone the $4 million that he's asking for. But I also understand probably where his parents are coming from. And just the Nico circle where they're coming from. And I know that this is probably not in their head because they played this thing completely and utterly dumb. So I'm going to assume because of that, they're not the most business savvy people. So they're not going to think that logically about these situations as you would want them to. But they probably should be, they probably had this idea subconsciously that he ain't going to the NFL. He ain't going to make all that money. So we need to make as much money now. When you can, when there are no guardrails, when there's no governing body, like watching everything, like our best chance for the most profit is taking advantage of this shitty situation college football finds it in right now. And they either played it incorrectly or Tennessee played it better by getting it out to the media, early Friday afternoon.
Yep.
And it was gone. It was done from that point on. So,
and also you mentioned like going up, asking your boss for a raise and all that stuff, and do it in a polite, professional manner. You can also do it like Nico did, is I need a raise or I'm fucking out of here, right? Or I am gone. that's an okay approach to have if you have something else lined up. If make sure that second part is the key there. If you have something else lined up, then you can have that approach. If you don't, it's nothing but burning a bridge, and it feels like all the other bridges are collapsing as well. So it's just crazy deal, man.
I mean, I think it's good for the sport because, I mean, that House ruling is going to come down at some point, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming it will. And that will get us closer to having a better idea of what some of the rules are or what some of the guardrails are, level out some things, level the playing field to an extent, not all the way, but to an extent. But this is just good because I'm all for player empowerment, but not complete player empowerment. Just like I would be I don't want complete and utter coach empowerment. I think one of the many problems with college basketball is the sport started to market itself as like Coach K versus Roy Williams. And it's like that. I mean, there's an element to that, but it should not, like, it should be about the players more so. Like, it should be about the players like 5% more than the coaches. You know, like Nick Saban, Alabama, like, oh my God, Saban's here. But also they've got like 12 first-round draft picks. And so watch the players on the field. So I want there to be more balance in terms of like leverage that coaches have and leverage that players have. And I will say, like, just like when I was covering the Thunder, and I would just want to claw my eyes out every time somebody would make an average Joe comparison analogy when talking about Kevin Durant. Like, hey, if you worked for Google and Apple like offered you like $5 million more, why wouldn't you take it? This is not the same thing. They are athletes. They are competitors. They are entertainers. It's not we are not the same as them. Our professional corporate lifestyle is not the same as theirs. They say that it's a business, and in a lot of respects it is, but it's not the same business as the ones that we all typically inhabit. So to make that analogy is lazy and also paints an incorrect picture, in my opinion. So I would just get so upset with those, like those conversations. And then now with where we are in the sport, it just makes me hope that we get to a point where we can stop the woe is me talk about, like, because the players getting paid. So, we don't have to pretend that they're not anymore, because they were always getting paid. Anyone that went to a big D1 school like I did, like a lot of our listeners probably went to OU. You might not have been friends with OU players, but you were probably they were getting paid. They just couldn't brag about it. They couldn't be upfront about it like they can now. But they deserve their money that they're getting now in terms of NIL. But let's also not woe is me about, well, coaches can leverage and coaches can get more. Coaches are not players. They are two completely different jobs. So stop comparing the players to the coach. Okay? Like, just stop. You can be a Jag OU football player, but if you start, like, I hate picking on him, but we've already mentioned him. If Austin Stogner 10 years from now decides to live in Norman, he can live off of his name to an extent. He could go to a radio station and apply for a job and, have a very good chance of getting on much quicker than people like you and me, Matt, who had to like intern their way up. Yeah. And that's an advantage that they earned. It's just the way that it is. I'm not shitting on it. It's just the way that it is. So players have a different ability to maximize their potential than coaches do. Coaches are adults. They're adults. Do they act like adults all the time? No, but let's cool it with like feeling bad for the players. Okay. Like, we've done that enough. We've given them all this power. And now we all complain about, like, I don't know who's going to be on my team next year because everyone's just transferring. It's hard to watch. So let's just get back to some sanity. But I guess one more little topic of insanity, Matt, the great Shedeur Sanders is having his jersey retired at the University of Colorado. along with Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, I guess, makes a lot of sense, but I don't recall. I don't think Rashawn Salam's number is hanging in the hanging in the rafters. Not that they have a roof at their stadium in Boulder. I don't think Cordell Stewart has a retired jersey. Slash. I don't think he has one. Bobby Purify, Chris Brown, Jeremy Bloom. God, there were some other like great players at Colorado in the late 80s.
Mason Crosby. No, I'm just kidding.
Mason Crosby.
The kicker.
Let me just look. Let me Google best Colorado Buffaloes football, not basketball players. I guess one of them would be like Jalen Williams' brother.
Yeah, Cody. Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, Chauncey Billups
10.
isn't walking through that door.
Oh, yeah.
Basketball wise. Andre Robertson. Thunder great. Andre Robertson. Yeah.
The top 10 greatest Colorado Buffaloes in program history from, let's see, 247 Sports. Cliff Branch played in the 70s. Never heard of him. Carroll Hardy played in the 50s. Never heard of him.
Sorry.
K.O. Lamb played in the 30s. Never heard of him. Philip Lindsay, 2014 to 2017.
Oh, yeah. Played for the Broncos, running back. Yeah.
Yeah. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons at Colorado. Okay. Cordell Stewart. I think we've all heard of him. Michael Westbrook. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Played in the he was on their national title team, 91 to 94. Those are the honorable mentions. Okay. Eric Bieniemy, 87 to 90. He was on those late 80s teams that were awesome. Herb Orvis played in the 60s, 70s. John Wooten, Alfred Williams, 87 to 90. Guy looks like a monster. Dick Anderson, 65. Bobby Anderson, I think I've heard of him. Darian Hagan, he coached at Colorado, or was he the coach at Arizona State?
I have no idea.
He was the quarterback on their national title team. Rashawn Salam, and then Byron White, halfback from the 30s. So
Travis Hunter not making the list. Yeah.
Well, this is, I think, I should have said this was written in 2020. So
gotcha.
Before, I think Travis Hunter is probably that guy who was number one, who played in the 30s. I've already forgotten his name. Every school has like their hallowed names for their reasons, if you saw a list of top 10 OU players on some blog post and Prentice Scott is like number 3, you and I would understand why. But to other people that are looking at that list who aren't familiar with OU's history, they go, man, I could name like 12 other running backs that are better than this guy. It's like, well, no. There's a story, and he was also very good. So I would imagine maybe Travis Hunter's probably like number 2 now on that list.
Probably.
But yeah, this is dumb. Peyton, it's a shame Peyton wanted to talk about this one, but obviously not able to jump on today.
Would you rather have Shadur's number retired or Nick Collison's?
Nick Collison.
Yeah, he's Mr. Thunder.
I think both don't deserve to be retired. Let me just be transparent. But if you had to give me one to pick, Nick Collison meant more to the organization, I think, than Shadur Sanders, because, well, the Shadur, Dion, and Travis Hunter, they put Colorado back on the map. Well, I mean, Colorado's been on the map before, and they've won it. Like they've been better.
They've won a national title.
I would argue that they've been in, like, their SEO has increased with Coach Prime, as we all know. Anytime, like I just mentioned Deion Sanders on the podcast, this podcast is going to shoot right up under. It's going to shoot up right up to number 2 under that Dave Smith and Douglas Murray argument on the Joe Rogan podcast from last week. So, like, thank you, Coach Prime, for helping our algorithm. But Colorado's been to higher heights, and they've been to higher heights multiple times in their program's history. They're a secondary football program, and at times in their history, they've often like probably wish they didn't play it, but they like that sweet, sweet money. That's not the only green they like in Boulder. So it's odd. it makes sense because this is just kind of what Coach Prime and Deion Sanders is all about, is just like building and marketing your brand, and more power to him. It's just like, my man, I get it. This is just getting dunked on. Do you want your son to continue to get dunked on? You know, like, do you think Shador's going to be fine in the NFL? Like, I really liked him 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. Do I think he's going to be like top 5, top 10 quarterback someday? No, not really, but I think he'll be fine.
Oh, see, I liked him 2 years ago. And then last year, I'm just like, he didn't take a leap like I thought he might. Because I thought he had the potential to be like, ooh. Because I did the math in my head, and did the timeline in my head, like, hey, the Dolphins might be looking for a new quarterback when he comes out of college.
Yeah.
And if he makes the necessary improvements, I wouldn't mind a quarterback like him that appears to be kind of cool under pressure on the field. Because Tua Tagovailoa is not that. Right. He's put his house up for sale in South Beach, Matt. I'm about to be liberated.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But yeah, this is just dumb.
It is.
I think retiring numbers in college, in football, because there's just, there's 11 players on offense, 11 players on defense. There's a handful of players that play only on special teams. And then you have 5 to 10, 5 to 8, like guys who rotate heavily. So you've got so many players to choose from. I think it's just dumb for a college football program to retire jersey numbers if you are kind of a Power 4 level program, unless it's like a Prentice Scott situation where it's like,
I was about to say, literally, like you just said,
this player,
Scott,
this player, this jersey, his story, it means a lot more than what happened on the field. And so that's why this jersey is always going to be like his, because, we've all had the conversations. If we retired jerseys at OU, we wouldn't be able to wear any.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I was going to say, Prentice Scott, 38, that should be retired, in my opinion. But I think that list probably begins and ends with Prentice Scott, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you'd say Prentice, and then I think the next name would be like Leroy Selman.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the Boz. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, 44.
Probably. I mean, it's either Boz or Baker, right?
One of those two. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad summer.
Retire his bandana.
Summer radio. Yeah. Right. That would be a bad one there. But yeah, no. Then you get into like, well, shit. Kyler was really damn good the next year. Like, he was great. Sam Bradford was awesome. It's like, so that's why I think Prentice Scott would be like, him and Leroy, I think, would be like, all right, those two, and then forget about everyone else's jersey retired. Like, I think there should be some sort of like honoring those great players, but not like fully retiring their numbers.
Yeah, I'm surprised OU's never tried to do like a Ring of Honor type deal. Yeah, I think we're not taking the jersey away. Like, people can still wear 6, because I also have liked, and maybe this was never the case, but in my like teenage brain, I used to think, or I guess, write my own fan fiction about OU football players and think like Sam Bradford picked 14 because he was like me. He loved Josh when he was a kid.
Right,
so he's wearing 14 for him. Yeah. And I don't know if he like ever confirmed that, or because I think he wore 16 in high school. But that's kind of what I've always liked about college, is that the players change. Like, they come and go very quickly. And now they come and go even quicker. But, it's the program that you root for. It's the name on the front. It sounds cliche and like tough guy machismo, but I mean, that's true. Like, I understand that Adrian Peterson's only going to be here for 3 years. I can hope and pray and wish that he stays for that senior year. But I know he's going to be, in the NFL by that point. But I can look forward to the day where maybe another great OU running back comes along, 5, 10, 15 years later, and they say, I'm going to wear number 28 because Adrian Peterson was my favorite player. So I like how that kind of heritage just keeps getting passed down through the years and through the generations. So that's another one of the many reasons why I don't think retiring jersey numbers in college football is like a smart idea if you're program like OU.
Yeah, it would look a lot like the Boston Celtics. Just like, there's no other numbers. Marcus Smart has to wear 36 because there's no like anything. Or like the Yankees, where the Yankees have retired all of their single digits. No one can wear a single digit ever again for the Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's odd, but this is an odd time.
It is.
Do we have any other OU stuff? Because I feel like I had an idea of what we were going to talk about a few hours ago. And then, like I said, like we all know, like literally 10 minutes before we got on, you got Jaydn Ott. So it's like, got to change some plans.
Yeah. No, and if we did, we can probably save that for next time.
Man, it's going to be interesting. Jim Nagy's in charge, and he seems to have a good idea of what to do.
Let him cook.
Thank God. It appears OU has someone with a brain for the modern day, and a knowledge of this is what we need to do in order to win, not this friends bullshit and like loyalty. Screw all that. Go out there and win football games. Then you can be loyal. Then you can be everybody's best friend. But, oh well. Hopefully the two of us did a good job in the absence of our other two co-hosts. But, yeah, this is what happens during the off season. Everybody's busy. Peyton's going to be down, I think, next week. Come visit. Maybe go to Norman Music Fest. So if you're out around Norman, want to go to Norman Music Fest, Matt, you should go. Come over and say hi. I'm sure we'll be crawling around somewhere. But, yeah, that'll do it for us here through the Keyhole, keyholepod.com. Don't forget to check that out. Alan Kinney's Blatant Homerism column. No doubt it's going to be fire this week, considering there's a lot of fun stuff around OU going on. Thank God. It's been a while. Patreon.com/through the keyhole. Extra stuff there as well for your enjoyment, for your Sooner fandom. And then, of course, go listen to Matt's show Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 on 107.7 The Franchise. We will greatly appreciate it. But for the absent Alan Kinney and Peyton Guthrie and the present Matt Burton and myself, Brady Trantham, everybody, thank you so much for listening Through the Keyhole. Until next time, Boomer.
Sooner.